stature that it might be a difficult thing. But coming from a professional football, how difficult was it to make the transition to wrestling and really take up a new career in your mid-20s?
Not hard at all. It's just one of those things when you have the passion to do something, and which I did. Whatever that thing is becomes easy. So, I always wanted to be a pro wrestler. So, the transition was fairly simple.
Okay. And Moose, in terms of your career, it happened. You made your debut in wrestling 2012, and we're looking maybe a decade later, and we look at all the big names on top of your resume that you fought throughout your career, from Bobby Lashley, Ethan Carter, Drew Galloway, Cody Rhodes, Eli Drake, John Morrison, Austin Aries, Kenny Omega, Joe Hendry, Nick Nate, some of the biggest names in the wrestling industry today and throughout the decades or so. Does that enlighten you? Does that give you the thrill to see how much you've accomplished and see that you've stepped in the ring alongside all these great competitors, even in the dare I say, not even the twilight of your career, even in the early stages of the career, that you have such a resume, and Josh Alexander, Alex Shelley, the names go on and on.
I mean, when you name them like that, it sounds pretty cool. But honestly, I don't really even think about that. I just love wrestling. So, it doesn't even have to be guys with names as big as those names you just listed. And just being having a chance to wrestle is I have a lot of passion. I love for it. So, yeah, just being a wrestler, man, just doing this for a job is what makes me happy. So.
And tell me, before you came to TNA, Moose, how was those experiences? First of all, Ring of Honor and New Japan Wrestling, and experiencing and wrestling in Japan. Did that sort of shape you and mold you into the wrestler that you are today?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a learning experience, and without those moments and parts of my career, my journey to where I'm at now, I wouldn't be at this destination. So I'm definitely happy I got the chance to work with New Japan and Noah and Ring of Honor so early in my career.
Yeah. And was that sort of a daunting task going out to fight in Japan? Obviously, a new country, a new civilization early on your career to make your sort of mark and your name in the industry. And how quickly did you settle into life in Japan, the whole culture, the lifestyle, and everything that goes with it?
I mean, Japan is great, man. The culture there is awesome. But what I tell people, wrestling is wrestling. Wrestling speaks the same language, so it doesn't matter where you go to wrestle; it's still wrestling. And at the end of the day, wrestling speaks its own language. So, but yeah, just as experience of living in a different country and working and wrestling Japanese guys, I mean, it's definitely a learning experience, and I'm definitely happy I went through all those experiences.
And I'm sort of intriguing the sort of the character that is Moose in certain terms of building him, building his own sort of persona. Was there anyone you had particularly in mind in terms of the left a mark? You mentioned being a love of wrestling and being a wrestling fan. Did anyone sort of leave its mark throughout the decades that you start to say, well, I maybe take this little bit here, this little bit here, in terms of making my own sort of character, which is Moose.
Yeah, definitely. When Don was at TNA, I worked with him briefly for a couple of years, and he definitely helped me evolve the character of Moose. And without his tutelage and his teaching and his mentoring, I definitely the character of Moose wouldn't be what Moose is. So, big shout out and big thanks to Don because he has definitely a lot to do with how the Moose character evolved.
Yeah. And in terms of achieving sort of goals and accomplishments, and obviously becoming a two-time TNA world champion as well, reaching the top of the mountain in terms of that industry as well. In terms of achieving accomplishments, do you feel that maybe what is left for Moose to achieve? Obviously, are you trying to be a three-peat champion? In terms of, are you looking maybe, obviously, you're the current TNA X Division champion, is a Triple Crown champion? Are you thinking tag team is what is the goals for Moose in TNA? Because you've achieved so much so early as well?
Honestly, the only thing I can control is being a better in-ring performer and being a better human being. Everything else is kind of like it controls itself, you know. So my goal every year and every day and every time I go to work is just to be a better in-ring performer.
Yeah. And you mentioned being a better ring performer, and people will look at your physique entire and to say, "Oh, well, he's a powerhouse type character. He's one of these wrestlers that is a grappler, a brawler, a real power sort of Moose." But Moose is a bit of everything. We see a bit of aerial effects from time to time with Moose. He's no stranger to getting up into that top rope. He's a bit of the speed, athleticism. You bring all different attributes. There's almost a bit of a Shelton Benjamin in you.
Yeah, I pride myself on being able to do everything. So, that's me, man. Um, definitely a jack of all trades.
Yeah. And in terms of being creative sort of storylines as Moose, in terms of that, do you sort of like playing the arch villain? Do you like playing the heel? Do you like playing the fans' favorite? Is there any sort of particular sort of storyline that really gets you going?
No, I just like being loose. So whatever, if they want to boo me, they can boo me. If they want to cheer me, they can cheer me. I just focus on myself and what I'm doing and my opponent.
Yeah, and it must be exciting times for you, Moose, as well. Obviously, with the joint partnership with WWE and TNA at the moment, and the crossover, we see wrestlers appearing in Royal Rumbles. We see WWE wrestlers appearing in TNA live shows as well. The opportunity for dream matches and the possibility of matches that wouldn't have been there maybe a year or two ago now with this cross branding in terms of wrestlers being able to explore new territories and domains. It must be very exciting to open up new challenges and new contenders coming at you from left, right, and center.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a great thing. That relationship with WWE is definitely a good thing, and I think the person who wins the most are the fans because they get to see some of these dream matches that you can only create on video games, right? So now some of these video game matches could actually be a reality. So, but only time will tell.
Yeah. And Moose, in terms of you personally, in terms of growing up, what were your type of favorite matches? What were the matches that sort of left the mark on Moose? If Moose could tell me his three favorite wrestling matches of all time, what would they be?
My favorite match as a kid was definitely Survivor Series, the multi-man elimination tag, and then the second for me was the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and so exciting, so opportunities, Moose. And dare I say, Moose, could we have you ever wrestled in Ireland in the past and the opportunity to wrestle maybe in the future in terms of Ireland? Would that excite you coming to the Tree Arena in Dublin or places like that? The opportunity to travel the world as wrestlers, which you've done in the past, maybe going to the UK and Ireland. Does that sort of excite you, those opportunities in the future now that COVID is over?
Yeah, I was actually just in Ireland last weekend with OTT for 2 nights in Dublin first night in the arena in the stadium and Belfast the second night. So that was just last this past weekend.
And how did you find the Irish fan base?
Yeah, they were awesome. OTT always have great fans.
And finally, Moose, before I let you go, just one quick sentence looking into 2025. When you look back, what are the sort of resolutions for Moose for this year? What are the sort of goals? Obviously, you're the current X Division champion. Is it maybe are you looking to be one of the longest reigning champions?
Yeah, that's definitely